Item Number: SCP-Y-027. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-Y-027 is contained within a controlled section of a museum located in Provisional Reality-Y-1. The museum itself is under continuous surveillance, with remote cameras monitoring both the display hall and the coin's position at all times. Foundation personnel are prohibited from interacting with SCP-Y-027 without express authorization from Site Director Knightley. Any personnel attempting to remove or pick up the coin without approval will be subject to immediate detainment and psychological evaluation. The museum is to remain sealed, and all access points are secured with automated defenses. Foundation personnel are to use robotic probes for exploration and interaction with SCP-Y-027 and its surrounding exhibits. Linguistic experts are actively working to decipher the language found on the display plates within the museum. In the event that SCP-Y-027 is picked up and an individual disappears, a response team specializing in cross-dimensional anomalies will be dispatched to track the individual's movements within the alternate world and ensure they are returned to baseline reality. Due to the complex nature of the otherworldly transport, extensive psychological and physical evaluations will be conducted upon the individual's return. Description: SCP-Y-027 is an anomalous coin located in the center of a vast display hall within a museum in Provisional Reality-Y-1. The museum is in remarkable condition despite the chaotic and dangerous environment of the surrounding reality. Display cases within the museum house statues of wax, stone, and other materials, all depicting horrific creatures that match various anomalies discovered in Provisional Reality-Y-1. These include known SCP entities such as SCP-Y-02, SCP-Y-003, SCP-Y-04, SCP-Y-019, and SCP-Y-026, among others. The coin itself is intricately designed and depicts a robed figure with a thick beard holding a staff. Above the staff is a symbol that has yet to be deciphered. The figure bears a striking resemblance to depictions of wizards or scholars seen in other art pieces scattered throughout the museum. Attempts to move SCP-Y-027 by pushing or rolling it have proven ineffective. The coin will remain in place until it is physically lifted. Upon lifting the coin, the individual holding it will instantaneously disappear from Provisional Reality-Y-1 and be transported to an alternate world resembling a high fantasy medieval setting. This world includes elves, dwarves, halflings, tieflings, golems, and many other fantastical creatures and races. The location where the individual reappears is typically a trading hub filled with market stalls, merchants, and a variety of wares. The people of this world seem accustomed to unusual occurrences and display little reaction to the sudden appearance of an outsider. It has been observed that the destination within this world is tied to the state of the trading hub. If the hub is altered or destroyed, the coin will link to a different hub location. This behavior suggests that the coin is bound to the concept of a central trading area rather than a specific physical location. Description: Entities of the alternate world, SCP-Y-027. Through extensive exploration and interaction, it has become evident that the alternate world connected to SCP-Y-027 is populated by a variety of sapient species, many of which share parallels with creatures found in high fantasy literature. These species have formed complex societies with distinct cultural practices, technological advancements, and a shared history that spans several millennia. The following is a detailed description of the major species and races encountered. Elves. Elves in the alternate world are the longest-lived species and hold a central role in its cultural and political landscape. Standing taller than most humans, with an average height of 6 to 7 feet, elves possess slender, agile physiques and highly refined features. Their skin tones vary widely, from pale to deeply bronzed hues, and their hair colors range from silver to jet black, with occasional appearances of gold or copper. Society. Elves live in intricate city-states, often located in dense forests or atop remote mountains. Their architecture is ethereal, with buildings crafted from materials that appear to shimmer in the light, using magic to augment their creations. The elves govern through a system of noble houses, with each house claiming dominion over specific territories or magical disciplines. Magic. Elves have a natural affinity for magic, particularly in the domains of nature, time, and the elements. They use spells not only for combat, but for daily activities like construction, agriculture, and communication. The Elvish language changes very little, if at all, over extensive periods of time, making it one of the most stable tongues in the alternate world. This linguistic stability has allowed the Foundation to catalogue and translate much of their written and spoken texts. While generally aloof, elves have shown a cautious interest in Foundation personnel. The discovery that the Foundation insignia has been recognized by multiple generations of elves suggests a deep-rooted connection between their world and the Foundation's incursions. Their long lifespan makes them keen observers of history, and they are protective of their world's balance. Dwarves. Dwarves are stout, resilient creatures, known for their exceptional craftsmanship and unparalleled mastery of metalwork. Averaging 4 to 5 feet in height, they are stocky and muscular, with broad shoulders and powerful limbs. Their skin is often rough, and they sport long, thick beards, which are a point of pride and status among them. Dwarves reside in vast underground cities carved deep within mountain ranges. These cities are labyrinthine, featuring great halls, forges, and mines that stretch for miles beneath the earth. Each city is ruled by a council of elder smiths who wield both political power and artisan skill. Dwarves are renowned for their ability to forge enchanted weapons and armor, often incorporating rare materials and runes that enhance their creations with magical properties. These items are highly sought after by both locals and Foundation personnel. However, trade is difficult as dwarves value their creations greatly and are wary of strangers. Unlike the elves, dwarves have a pragmatic view of magic. While they respect its power, they consider magic to be a tool, and their use of it is focused primarily on augmenting their craftsmanship. Dwarven magic often manifests as runes, enchantments, and wards, which are incorporated into their weapons, structures, and tools. Dwarves are gruff and suspicious of outsiders, particularly those they deem unworthy of their trust. However, they are also fiercely honorable and will form lasting alliances with those who prove themselves. Tieflings. Tieflings are a devil-like race with humanoid features, but their most distinguishing traits are their horns, tails, and eyes that glow with an inner fire. Their skin ranges in color from deep red to dark purple, and many tieflings adorn themselves with intricate jewelry, tattoos, and robes that reflect their connection to infernal magic. Tieflings often form nomadic clans, though some have settled in grand cities where they work as merchants, diplomats, or spellcasters. Their society is matriarchal, with leadership often passing through powerful female lines, usually those who have made pacts with demonic entities or mastered potent magical arts. Tieflings have an innate connection to infernal and dark magic, which manifests in their ability to manipulate fire, shadow, and illusion. Many tieflings wear enchanted jewelry that enhances their magical abilities, such as rings that amplify fire spells or necklaces that cloak their presence from divination. Though their appearance is often intimidating to other races, tieflings are known for their cunning and adaptability. They are savvy traders, capable of striking complex deals and leveraging their magical abilities to gain favor or power. Tieflings are neither inherently good nor evil, and their alliances shift based on opportunity rather than loyalty. Halflings. Halflings are a smaller race, standing about 3 to 4 feet tall, with round faces, bright eyes, and a cheerful demeanor. They have a reputation for being nimble and resourceful, able to move with remarkable stealth despite their unassuming appearance. Halflings are a largely agrarian people, preferring peaceful rural communities where they farm, craft, and engage in trade. They value family, community, and the simple joys of life, though some halflings have taken up lives as adventurers, using their quick wits and agility to navigate danger. While not particularly adept at casting magic, halflings possess a natural luck that seems to aid them in tight situations. This luck has been noted by Foundation researchers as a passive, low-level reality-bending ability, though it is poorly understood. Halflings are incredibly hospitable to guests, offering food and shelter to travelers without hesitation. They are, however, quick to discern the intentions of others and will not hesitate to protect their communities if threatened. Golems. Golems are massive humanoid constructs made from various materials, including stone, metal, and clay. These beings are typically created through a combination of magic and alchemical engineering, serving as guardians, laborers, or warriors, depending on their creator's intent. Golems are powered by intricate runes and glyphs that imbue them with movement and purpose. Some golems are semi-autonomous, following simple commands, while others are controlled directly by mages or artifacts. The most advanced golems have rudimentary intelligence, allowing them to adapt to new situations without direct guidance. Golems act according to their programming or the will of their creators. However, if left without orders, they can become dormant, waiting until reactivated by specific magical stimuli. Foundation researchers have noted that interacting with golems often requires understanding the language or runes inscribed upon them. Other species and races. Orcs, larger, brutish humanoids. Orcs are known for their strength and warrior culture. Orcs often live in tribal societies, ruled by chieftains who gain their position through combat. They value honor in battle and are fiercely loyal to their tribes. These are the most commonly encountered races of the SCP-Y-027 markets, though there have been encounters with many other types of fantastical races, with a constantly expanding list, updated with what details can be gathered. Conclusion. The alternate world accessed via SCP-Y-027 presents a diverse and complex ecosystem of species, each with its own unique culture, history, and abilities. The interactions between these species and the Foundation have been varied, ranging from cautious alliances to hostile encounters. Continued exploration and study are essential to understanding the full scope of the alternate world's inhabitants and their potential impact on Provisional Reality-Y-1. Addendum 027-1. Initial explorations into the museum have revealed displays of numerous entities found within Provisional Reality-Y-1. The language inscribed on the display plates is consistent across the exhibits, but remains undeciphered. Linguists have theorized that this language may hold clues to the origin of the museum and its connection to the various anomalies it houses. Further investigation into the museum's history, the identity of the robed figure depicted on SCP-Y-027, and the purpose of the alternate world linked to the coin is ongoing. Addendum 027-2. Interaction with SCP-Y-027 and the alternate world. SCP-Y-027's anomalous properties are further complicated by the constraints placed upon individuals who interact with it, particularly regarding the nature of their movement between the alternate world and Provisional Reality-Y-1. Careful observation and testing by Foundation personnel have revealed a series of precise mechanics governing the coin's spatial limits, the transportation process, and the potential for transferring items between realities. Movement within the alternate world. Upon picking up SCP-Y-027, the individual is immediately transported to a trading hub within the alternate fantasy world, and their ability to move is dictated by a unique set of rules. While in this alternate world, the individual can freely move within a range that is directly proportional to the size of the display hall in which SCP-Y-027 was originally located. This hall is approximately 100 meters in length and width, and thus the individual is permitted to move a distance of 100 meters from their point of arrival in any direction while they remain in possession of SCP-Y-027. If the individual attempts to move beyond the 100-meter radius, they will find themselves instantaneously transported back to Provisional Reality-Y-1, reappearing within the display hall of the museum. The exact location of their reappearance will correspond to the point where they would have been stopped by the museum's walls had they tried to walk the same distance within the hall. The individual will be placed directly against the wall, and SCP-Y-027 will have returned to its original location at the center of the display hall. This range restriction acts as a type of tether between the individual and the original site of SCP-Y-027. The Foundation hypothesizes that the coin maintains a metaphysical link to its display hall, preventing individuals from wandering too far from the conceptual boundaries of the museum. The second major constraint governing SCP-Y-027's behavior concerns the individual's direct contact with the coin. If the individual loses physical contact with the coin while in the alternate world, an instantaneous return to Provisional Reality-Y-1 will occur. This return is abrupt and disorienting, often accompanied by a brief sensation of vertigo. The individual will reappear within the display hall, placed relative to where they stood when they first picked up the coin, and the coin itself will have returned to its original position in the center of the hall. Loss of contact with SCP-Y-027 includes circumstances where the coin is dropped, stolen, or placed onto a surface. The object will immediately vanish from the alternate world and reappear within the museum, resetting the anomaly to its default state. The individual will likewise be returned, regardless of their actions or proximity to the coin at the time of its release. Testing has shown that the time spent in the alternate world, whether seconds or hours, has no bearing on this instant relocation process. One of the most intriguing aspects of SCP-Y-027's transportation ability is the limited capability to bring external objects into the alternate world. The individual who picks up SCP-Y-027 is allowed to carry with them a single bag or sack, and no other method of transporting goods between worlds will function. Attempts to use backpacks, briefcases, or other containers to move items have invariably failed. Only a standard bag, whether made of leather, cloth, or other basic materials, has been shown to work effectively. The total weight of the individual and the contents of the bag must not exceed 226 kilograms, approximately 500 pounds. If the collective weight is at or below this limit, the entire contents of the bag, along with the individual, will be transported into the alternate world when the coin is picked up. Once in the market area, the individual can use these transported items to barter with the world's inhabitants. The items themselves do not appear to raise significant suspicion or alarm from the local traders who seem accustomed to magical or foreign objects appearing in their midst. However, if the total weight exceeds 226 kilograms, the individual will be transported without the bag or its contents. In this scenario, the bag will remain behind in Provisional Reality-Y-1, lying on the floor of the museum display hall at the exact spot where the individual was standing before being transported. It appears the bag itself, when over-encumbered, becomes subject to the same tethering restrictions that govern SCP-Y-027's behavior, disallowing it from crossing dimensions with an excessive load. Once in the alternate world, any items the individual brought with them can be used for trade or barter within the market area. The economy of the trading hub operates much like that of a traditional medieval marketplace, with stalls selling a variety of goods, ranging from food and drink to weaponry, magical artifacts and exotic items. Local currency exists in the form of gold, silver, and copper coins, though barter systems are equally prevalent. Foundation personnel have experimented with various trade goods, bringing items such as rare metals, gems, technological devices, and even simple provisions such as spices and textiles. The locals appear interested in these goods and are willing to trade them for local currency or items of equal value. Some Foundation operatives have reported acquiring unusual artifacts and enchanted items through these transactions, though the full nature of these objects is still being studied. It is important to note that, while the individual may trade freely, they cannot bring anything back with them unless it fits within the confines of their designated bag and remains within the weight restriction. This means that while valuable or significant items can be obtained in the alternate world, only a limited quantity of such items can be returned to Provisional Reality-Y-1. Should the individual lose contact with SCP-Y-027 while carrying items from the alternate world, both the individual and the bag will be instantly returned to the museum in Provisional Reality-Y-1. The bag and its contents will remain intact, provided the individual was still holding the bag at the time they lost contact with SCP-Y-027. If, however, the bag is dropped in the alternate world before the individual loses contact with the coin, the bag will not be transported back to Provisional Reality-Y-1. In this case, the bag and its contents will be left behind in the alternate world, effectively lost, unless the individual returns to retrieve it in a subsequent trip. This mechanic has led to instances where Foundation operatives intentionally leave certain items behind in the alternate world, either to study the long-term effects of their presence or to establish a foothold for future exploration. However, careful planning is required, as any significant alterations to the trading hub may cause SCP-Y-027 to link to a different location upon subsequent use, making retrieval of left-behind items more difficult or impossible. The complex interaction between SCP-Y-027's transportation mechanics, the physical limitations imposed on individuals, and the trading hub of the alternate world continues to be the subject of intensive study by Foundation researchers. Addendum 027-3 Notable Interactions and Anomalous Trades. The interaction between SCP-Y-027 and its alternate world allows for the exchange of goods through a complex trade system, the nuances of which are still under investigation. The ability to bring items back into Provisional Reality-Y-1 has introduced a range of variables concerning the weight limit, the nature of traded goods, and the mechanisms through which SCP-Y-027 facilitates or restricts certain trades. Currency system and trading mechanics. The economy of the alternate world primarily operates using a currency system consisting of three main types of coinage: copper, silver, and gold. Gold coins hold the highest value, typically used for large transactions or rare items, while silver is common for everyday purchases, and copper is used for smaller, more menial transactions. This system mirrors traditional medieval economic structures, with a significant emphasis on bartering and trading, particularly in the bustling market hubs where individuals are transported upon picking up SCP-Y-027. Foundation operatives have successfully traded a variety of mundane and anomalous items with the local merchants in the alternate world. Initially, goods such as spices, textiles, technological artifacts, and luxury items like rare gems were highly sought after by local traders, resulting in the successful acquisition of various magical items, exotic wares, and currency that was subsequently brought back to Site-Y1 for analysis. The weight limitation and the trade anomaly. One of the most significant constraints of SCP-Y-027's anomalous trade system is the 226 kilograms, 500 pounds weight limitation. This total includes the weight of the individual, any items they bring, and the contents of the bag they carry into the alternate world. If the weight limit is exceeded, the individual will be transported without the excess items, which remain in Provisional Reality-Y-1. This restriction ensures that individuals cannot exploit the anomaly for large-scale transportation of goods or livestock. However, an unexplained exception to this rule was discovered following an unusual incident involving Mobile Task Force Zeta-0 operative Stephen Blanche, aka Sunny Boy. Known for his brash and often unpredictable nature, Sunny Boy was particularly insistent on investigating SCP-Y-027 after hearing about its properties. After a period of persistent requests and increasing annoyance from Site-Y1 staff, Director Knightley approved his participation in an exploratory mission. In preparation for his journey into the alternate world, Sunny Boy commissioned a large quantity of cheesecake from the Site-Y1 kitchen personnel, having filled a bag with roughly 100 pounds of the dessert. Within moments of crossing into the alternate world, he returned, without the cheesecake, without the bag, but instead leading an enormous, horse-sized, lizard-like creature that had never been seen in Provisional Reality-Y-1. The creature, later designated SCP-Y-027b, was calm, obedient, and entirely unfazed by the sudden transportation into the museum's display hall. SCP-Y-027b is a large quadrupedal reptilian creature with muscular hindquarters, elongated limbs, and a tough, scaly hide resembling that of a monitor lizard or dragon-like creature from myth. It possesses sharp claws, an elongated snout, and a series of low-slung spikes running down its spine. Despite its imposing size and appearance, SCP-Y-027b is docile, responding well to commands given by Sunny Boy, who has taken responsibility for the creature's care and containment. Initial containment procedures for SCP-Y-027b involve keeping it in a secure enclosure at Site Y1, where it is fed a diet consistent with carnivorous reptilian species and exercised under the supervision of Sunny Boy and several personnel. The creature has shown no signs of aggression and appears highly intelligent, capable of understanding basic commands. It has even demonstrated the ability to respond to vocal instructions and body language cues, further raising questions about the nature of its training and intelligence. SCP-Y-027b is presumed to be native to the alternate world, where it is occasionally employed as a beast of burden, pulling carriages and carts through the market hubs. Despite its seemingly mundane use in the other world, the process through which Sunny Boy was able to transport it to Provisional Reality-Y-1 remains anomalous, as subsequent attempts to replicate this trade have failed. The exact mechanics behind Sunny Boy's successful transportation of SCP-Y-027b remain unclear, as every attempt to duplicate the trade and bring another lizard creature from the alternate world has ended in failure. Operatives have attempted to recreate the scenario by bartering similar goods, offering increasingly valuable items in the market, and even acquiring lizard creatures directly from local merchants in the alternate world. In each case, when the operative attempts to return to Provisional Reality-Y1, the purchased creature or goods vanish, and only the operative and the empty bag return. This discrepancy has led to extensive study of Sunny Boy's initial interaction and the unique set of circumstances surrounding the trade. According to Sunny Boy, the trade was secured through what he describes as good old-fashioned persistence and a dwarf with a sweet tooth. His recounting of the event is frustratingly vague, but he insists that after offering the cheesecake to a local dwarf who operated a carriage, the dwarf agreed to trade his lizard creature in exchange for the dessert. When pressed for more detailed information, Sunny Boy's explanations have been less than enlightening, as he maintains that his success was due simply to his, quote, desire for a damn lizard, end quote, and his ability to pressure the dwarf until he relented. Despite his flippant attitude, the results of this trade are difficult to dismiss, leading to the hypothesis that SCP-Y-027's trade system may have a subjective component, influenced by the desires or intentions of the individual engaging in the transaction. The exact nature of SCP-Y-027's anomalous trade system remains a subject of ongoing investigation. Several hypotheses have been proposed regarding why Sunny Boy's trade was successful while others have failed. One theory suggests that SCP-Y-027 operates on a form of personal significance, recognizing the intensity of the individual's desire for the traded item and allowing for exceptions when the emotional or psychological investment in the trade is particularly high. This would explain Sunny Boy's seemingly irrational success, as his single-minded pursuit of the lizard creature may have triggered the anomaly's willingness to bypass its normal weight restrictions and trade limitations. Another hypothesis posits that SCP-Y-027 operates on a barter system that includes not just physical goods, but intangible elements such as emotional exchanges, intentions, or even metaphysical components tied to the individual's state of mind at the time of the trade. If this is true, Sunny Boy's casual but determined approach to bartering may have unlocked a deeper facet of SCP-Y-027's mechanics, one that has yet to be fully understood or replicated by other operatives. To date, all attempts to reproduce the conditions of Sunny Boy's trade have ended in failure. Foundation personnel have tried to recreate the cheesecake barter, offering varying quantities of the dessert to dwarves and other traders in the alternate world. While the cheesecake is often well received, the resulting trades have never involved the successful transport of additional lizard creatures or other large items. Testing continues, with researchers now focusing on the psychological and emotional state of the individuals engaging in the trade, as well as exploring the possibility that SCP-Y-027's trade anomaly is influenced by the broader context of the exchange, including the reputation or relationship between the trader and the local inhabitants of the alternate world, Sunny Boy's trade, the acquisition of SCP-Y-027b, and the subsequent failure to replicate his success have raised significant questions about the nature of SCP-Y-027's connection to the alternate world. Further investigation is needed to understand the precise mechanisms that govern these trades, as well as the implications for future explorations and the potential for leveraging this anomaly to acquire unique or valuable resources from beyond Provisional Reality-Y-1. Naturally, the cost of housing and any excess costs accrued due to SCP-Y-027b are deducted from Sunny Boy's pay. Addendum 027-4, Temporal Discrepancies and Interdimensional Time Flow. As research surrounding SCP-Y-027 has progressed, an unexpected and highly anomalous factor has emerged. The flow of time in the alternate world accessed through the coin does not follow a consistent pattern when compared to time in Provisional Reality-Y-1. This phenomenon was first noted after multiple operatives returned from the alternate world to find that their experiences, which appeared to last mere hours or days, spanned significantly longer periods, ranging from weeks to decades, depending on the specific instance of travel. Initial studies into the temporal discrepancies suggested that time may flow at a rate faster or slower than in Provisional Reality-Y-1. However, repeated experimentation has revealed that the flow of time is highly unstable and unpredictable, with no discernible pattern or consistency between each use of the coin. The duration experienced in the alternate world seems to vary drastically with each trip, making it impossible to establish a concrete relationship between the two realities. Example 1. On September 4, 2000, an operative entered the alternate world via SCP-Y-027 and spent what appeared to be 48 hours engaging with local traders and studying the market environment. Upon returning to Provisional Reality-Y-1, only 2 hours had passed, suggesting that time in the alternate world had been moving at a slower rate relative to the baseline reality. Example 2. In contrast, on October 2, 2000, another operative engaged in a mission that was supposed to last 24 hours in the alternate world. Upon returning, they discovered that 23 years and 2 months had passed in the alternate world, with many locals they had interacted with during their previous visit having aged significantly or even died. Further complicating the issue is the fact that the degree of time dilation seems to vary from one instance of travel to the next. There is no reliable way to predict how long an operative will have spent in the alternate world upon their return to Provisional Reality-Y-1, leading to serious concerns regarding prolonged or unintended absence from Foundation duties. The unstable flow of time presents a major barrier to establishing any meaningful or ongoing relationships with the inhabitants of the alternate world. Numerous attempts to create diplomatic ties with local government officials, guilds, or trading consortiums have been severely hindered by these temporal irregularities. For example, during one mission, Foundation personnel established a rudimentary alliance with a local trading guild in the market hub, forming agreements to exchange technological resources from Provisional Reality-Y-1 for rare magical artifacts. However, upon returning to the alternate world a mere 3 days later, operatives discovered that the guild had been disbanded and its members had died of old age, despite only a week passing since the initial agreement. Similarly, any attempts to create long-term relationships with specific merchants or traders often result in disappointment, as these individuals may age drastically or disappear entirely between visits. The phenomenon extends beyond individuals, affecting the political and social structure of the alternate world. Governments that are engaged during one expedition may dissolve, fall into civil unrest, or transform entirely by the time another mission is initiated. Given the highly dynamic nature of the alternate world and the random nature of the temporal shifts, establishing any form of continuity is extremely difficult. Changing hub locations. Adding to the complexity is the fact that the primary transport destination, the trading hub, can shift locations, often without warning. The hub's movement appears to be linked to changes within the alternate world itself. The destruction, renovation, or significant alteration of the current trading hub triggers SCP-Y-027 to realign to a new trading hub within the alternate world. While this new location always serves the same purpose as a bustling center of commerce, it introduces another layer of unpredictability for Foundation operatives. For example, in one instance, the original trading hub in which several operatives had conducted trade collapsed due to a natural disaster. When the coin was next activated, operatives found themselves in a newly constructed trading hub in a different region, with an entirely different population of merchants and traders. This rendered any established agreements from the previous hub null and void. The shifting nature of the trading hub prevents the Foundation from forming consistent relationships or conducting long-term studies on the local population, economy, or political structure. The variability of the trading hub's location also hinders the ability to map or explore the alternate world in any meaningful way, as operatives are constantly entering new regions that bear little resemblance to the previous ones. The lack of a traceable pattern in these relocations suggests that the hub's movement may be driven by chaotic or even magical forces intrinsic to the alternate world itself. Despite the numerous obstacles posed by the unstable time flow and shifting trading hubs, one potential avenue for establishing continuity and cross-world communication lies with the elves of the alternate world. This species appears to possess extraordinarily long lifespans, with some individuals living for several millennia. Elves who have been observed and interacted with claim to have lifespans extending to nearly 4,000 years, which may allow for the creation of stable, long-term diplomatic relationships if their societal structures remain intact. Efforts to communicate with elves have revealed them to be deeply intelligent, cautious, and heavily ingrained in the politics and magical traditions of the alternate world. Elven cities and territories exist far beyond the confines of the market hub, but are said to play a significant role in trade and commerce across vast regions. Due to their long lifespans, elves are also better able to withstand the disruptive effects of the alternate world's fluctuating time flow, as they seem less affected by rapid changes in political regimes, technological advancements, or social evolution. Unfortunately, the current limitations of SCP-Y-027 have made sustained contact with Elven communities difficult. Since operatives are confined to the boundaries of the trading hub unless they drop the coin, reaching the distant Elven settlements has proven to be a formidable challenge. Nonetheless, research teams are exploring the possibility of leveraging elves as long-term contacts for future missions, potentially serving as stable intermediaries between the Foundation and the alternate world's ever-changing political landscape. Theoretical temporal drivers. Several hypotheses have been proposed to explain the anomalous flow of time in the alternate world. One prevailing theory is that time within the alternate world is influenced by its magical nature, which may operate on principles fundamentally different from those governing Provisional Reality-Y-1. The transportation effect of SCP-Y-027 may act as a form of interdimensional destabilization, causing time in the alternate world to fluctuate as a result of the breach between realities. Another hypothesis suggests that the alternate world may be subject to its own internal instabilities, with regions experiencing varied rates of temporal progression depending on magical forces, ley-line interference, or the influence of powerful entities. Given that time dilation seems to vary based on location and the conditions of the trading hub, it is possible that certain regions of the alternate world experience accelerated or decelerated time due to the influence of local factors such as arcane disruptions, dimensional warping, or supernatural phenomena tied to the hub's commerce. The existence of powerful magical artifacts and creatures in the alternate world further complicates matters. Items or entities that manipulate or distort time may inadvertently affect the temporal flow around them, creating areas of localized dilation. It is currently unknown whether these temporal anomalies are intrinsic to the alternate world or if SCP-Y-027 itself is amplifying these effects by linking Provisional Reality-Y-1 to such a chaotic environment. Conclusion and ongoing research. The unpredictable time differential between Provisional Reality-Y-1 and the alternate world remains one of the greatest challenges associated with SCP-Y-027. Although the coin provides a unique opportunity to access and interact with a fully formed alternate dimension, the risks posed by unstable time flow make long-term engagement fraught with difficulty. Establishing meaningful relationships, mapping the alternate world, and conducting trade on a consistent basis all face major barriers due to the variable progression of time between each trip. Despite these challenges, continued research into SCP-Y-027's temporal mechanics is essential for understanding its broader implications. Future missions will focus on uncovering the underlying forces that drive the alternate world's time flow and exploring the potential for using long-lived Elven populations as diplomatic bridges. Additionally, the discovery of artifacts or entities capable of stabilizing time in specific areas may provide the Foundation with the tools needed to mitigate the anomaly's effects and allow for more controlled engagement with the other world. Incident Report Y-027-1, Discovery of Museum of Omission. During a routine reconnaissance mission in Sector Z-12 of Provisional Reality-Y-1, an area known for its volatile temporal and spatial anomalies, Mobile Task Force Zeta-0, along with a small research team, made a significant discovery. The Museum of Omission, a massive anomalous structure. This previously unexplored sector had been marked for high-priority investigation due to intense anomalous readings that suggested the presence of potentially dangerous entities or artifacts. The team, consisting of 2 operatives, Talon and Whisper, as well as researchers Dr. Alan Bradley and Dr. Monica Lewis, entered Sector Z-12 under challenging conditions. The landscape surrounding the museum was in constant flux, shifting unpredictably between environments as varied as arid deserts, dense forests, and jagged mountains. These transformations occurred within moments, accompanied by temporal distortions that made navigation dangerous. Communication devices and GPS trackers malfunctioned, rendering the team reliant on visual and instinctual navigation. After hours of navigating the unstable terrain, the team arrived at a vast, ancient structure, towering over the ever-shifting landscape. The Museum of Omission was unlike any building the team had encountered in Provisional Reality-Y-1. It appeared to have been pieced together from various architectural styles and timelines, its towering facade a blend of alien and human designs. Ancient columns spiraled upwards, impossibly high, while intricate carvings and symbols of unknown origin adorned the entrance. Despite its chaotic structure, the museum showed no visible signs of wear or damage, as though preserved in perfect condition. With no immediate threats in the surrounding area, the team prepared to enter the museum. Talon and Whisper scouted the perimeter, ensuring no hostile entities lurked nearby, while Dr. Bradley and Dr. Lewis prepared to document the museum's anomalous qualities. The structure emitted a faint hum, possibly temporal in origin, which seemed to warp the air around it. Dr. Lewis noted that the museum's glyphs and symbols appeared to represent multiple forgotten civilizations, possibly suggesting that the building itself was a nexus for various timelines or realities. Once the exterior was deemed secure, the team entered the museum through its massive open doors. Inside the museum, the team was greeted by vast, cavernous halls lined with statues. These statues, each towering over 10 feet tall, depicted grotesque creatures from worlds long forgotten. Some appeared humanoid, others entirely alien, but all gave off a strange, otherworldly aura. The halls seemed to stretch far beyond the building's exterior dimensions, with certain passageways looping back on themselves or shifting entirely as the team moved forward. Dr. Bradley's temporal scanners picked up strange fluctuations in the surrounding air, indicating the museum itself existed in a state of constant temporal instability. As they ventured deeper, the team discovered display cases and pedestals housing artifacts that radiated low levels of anomalous energy. Each item appeared to belong to a different time period or civilization, with some seemingly predating human history. Dr. Lewis theorized that the museum served as a repository for relics from multiple realities, preserving items and knowledge that had long been lost to the passage of time. Despite the strange surroundings, the team pressed onward, documenting each discovery meticulously. As they moved deeper into the structure, the ambient energy levels increased, and the halls began to shift more rapidly. The atmosphere within the museum grew heavier, as though the air itself was charged with ancient power. After nearly 2 hours of exploration, the team entered the museum's central display hall. The room was immense, with its ceiling lost in the shadows above. The hall was empty except for a single small object lying inconspicuously on the floor in the center of the room. A coin. Unlike the other artifacts they had encountered, which were displayed in elaborate cases or mounted on pedestals, this coin seemed to have been left carelessly on the ground. Talon, leading the group, approached cautiously. From a distance, the coin appeared ordinary, but Dr. Lewis's anomalous sensors detected a subtle energy signature radiating from it. Talon bent down and picked up the coin. The moment his fingers touched its surface, the room around him blurred, and in an instant, he vanished without a trace. The remaining team members immediately attempted to re-establish contact with him, but to no avail. Approximately 10 minutes later, Talon reappeared in the exact spot he had vanished, visibly shaken. He reported being transported to a different world upon touching the coin, a massive market hub filled with strange creatures. He mentioned that he felt like something ancient had been watching him, though he couldn't determine what or where it was. Following Talon's return, the team made several attempts to remove the coin from the museum for further study. However, these efforts proved impossible. Any attempt to move the coin via tools, machinery, or even containment units resulted in the same outcome. The person attempting to manipulate the coin would be transported into the alternate world. Furthermore, any effort to transport the coin outside of the museum's entrance was met with resistance. It simply could not pass beyond the building's threshold. Dr. Bradley theorized that the coin was bound to the museum, serving as a portal rather than a traditional object. Attempts to forcefully remove it would only trigger its anomalous effects, transporting the handler to the alternate reality. The coin seemed to be intrinsically linked to the museum, preventing it from being relocated. Director Knightley, after being briefed on the situation, ordered the team to establish a containment perimeter around the museum instead of attempting further retrieval of the coin. The building's anomalous properties, coupled with the inability to transport the coin, meant that the entire museum needed to be treated as the containment zone for SCP-Y-027. MTF Zeta 0, along with the research team, began securing the surrounding area. A Foundation outpost was established near the museum to monitor its activity and study the temporal and spatial anomalies within the structure. The museum itself was too unstable to explore further at the time, and the shifting nature of the interior posed significant risks for prolonged expeditions. Plans for future exploration were put in place, but for now, the containment perimeter around the Museum of Omission was deemed sufficient. Research into SCP-Y-027, its alternate world, and the museum's purpose is ongoing, with additional personnel being assigned to study the site in greater depth. Incident Report 027, Wall 1. Date: September 2nd, 2000. Involved personnel: electrical engineer. Summary: a janitorial personnel assigned to one of the outposts for SCP-Y-027 who was trespassing near the containment perimeter around the Museum of Omission, bypassed security protocols and entered the central display hall. Security footage showed the individual casually walking through the museum, seemingly drawn toward the center of the hall where SCP-Y-027 lay on the floor. Despite multiple warnings broadcast over the facility's loudspeakers, the individual picked up the coin. Immediately after touching it, the individual vanished as expected. 20 minutes later, Foundation personnel were alerted to a sudden spike in temporal activity. When security entered the display hall to investigate, they found the individual had reappeared at the far end of the room, decapitated. The body lay slumped against the wall, with no sign of the head in the immediate vicinity. Further investigation revealed deep lacerations on the body, consistent with the use of bladed weapons, likely swords. An autopsy later confirmed that the cause of death was a clean decapitation inflicted by a sharp object. Closer analysis of the body showed traces of ash and soot on the wounds, suggesting the individual had been dragged toward a pyre for cremation before the reappearance in the display hall. It is assumed that the individual encountered hostile entities in the alternate world and was killed in a confrontation before being discarded by the guards. The body, having reached the limit of SCP-Y-027's spatial boundary, returned to the display hall. This incident highlights the fatal risks of handling SCP-Y-027 without proper training and supervision. After gathering information from other workers at the site, it was believed that this incident occurred due to an obsession that Mr. had with the J.R.R. Tolkien books and films. As well as being an avid Dungeons & Dragons player, Mr. had likely believed that he could live within the alternate world of SCP-Y-027 if he never relinquished the coin. Security protocols within Provisional Reality-Y-1 can often leave unusual openings like this due to the amorphous and unstable nature of the reality. Nonetheless, security has been reinforced and revised to hopefully prevent similar happenings. An analysis on hobbies and recreational activities related to Lord of the Rings, Dungeons & Dragons, Baldur's Gate or any other form of high fantasy media is to be performed before considering placement of any personnel on detail for SCP-Y-027. Incident Report 027 Wall 3, date September 5, 2000. Involved personnel: Research Assistant James Daly. On September 5th, Research Assistant James Daly, stationed at the Museum of Omission as part of a routine observation team, breached protocol by interacting with SCP-Y-027 without authorization. Security footage shows Daly hesitating briefly before picking up the coin, after which he immediately vanished from sight. 12 minutes after his disappearance, Daly reappeared in the display hall, impaled by several medieval weapons, including a spear and what appeared to be a longsword. His body was found pinned against the western wall of the hall, weapons protruding from his torso. Blood covered the floor around him, and it was evident that the injuries had been sustained in a brutal attack. Autopsy reports confirmed that Daly had suffered multiple stab wounds to vital organs, consistent with medieval warfare. The spear that pierced his abdomen appeared to be made of ancient wood, and the sword's design matched historical styles from the alternate world as previously documented. Analysis of the weapons indicated they had been crafted with both mundane and anomalous properties, their blades unnaturally sharp and resistant to decay. Further investigation into Daly's actions revealed that he had been attempting to trade Foundation equipment for what he believed would be valuable artifacts. His unsanctioned behavior likely led to a confrontation with local authorities or hostile forces in the alternate world. It is presumed that Daly's body was being removed by the guards for incineration before reappearing in the display hall, once again demonstrating the spatial limits of SCP-Y-027. Incident Report 027-IR-1, date September 9, 2000. Involved personnel: MTF Zeta 0 Operative Glint. Summary: during a routine surveillance mission within the trading hub of SCP-Y-027's alternate world, MTF Operative Glint was tasked with gathering intelligence on local market trends and potential trade opportunities. Glint was equipped with a bag containing various trade goods, including hand-forged weapons, exotic spices, and a few experimental items designed to gauge the response of the locals. At approximately hours, Glint stepped beyond the permissible range of SCP-Y-027's influence, triggering an instantaneous return to Provisional Reality-Y-1. Upon his reappearance in the museum's display hall, Glint's condition was immediately noted to be abnormal. Despite his body showing no visible physical wounds, his clothing was drenched in cold sweat, and his heart rate was dangerously elevated. He was unresponsive to initial inquiries, repeatedly muttering incoherent phrases about shadows following him and eyes that never blink. Operative Glint was swiftly escorted to the medical bay, where his symptoms became more pronounced. His eyes darted around the room as if tracking invisible entities, and his breathing became shallow and erratic. A psychological evaluation was ordered, but Glint continued to spiral into paranoia. He claimed to have encountered something in the marketplace, a humanoid figure shrouded in tattered, blackened robes, moving in an unnatural, jerky manner, as though its limbs were twitching in places they shouldn't. He described the figure as having too many eyes, which he claimed glowed with a searing brightness that followed his every move. Glint recounted that no one else in the market seemed to notice the entity, despite its oppressive presence. The creature appeared at first to be a distant figure in the mist, but each time Glint blinked, it would be closer, always watching, always waiting. As Glint continued to relay the event, his description of the entity grew more grotesque. He spoke of hearing a constant, raspy whisper, too low to understand but always just behind him. The whispers escalated into unintelligible babbling, punctuated by sickening clicks and gurgles, as though the figure was trying to speak but couldn't form coherent words. Glint claimed the creature never approached him directly, yet its presence felt impossibly close. Every time he turned to look, the figure was a step closer, until its glowing eyes were all he could see. When shown a series of images to help identify potential entities from the world, Glint reacted with mild recognition to several common humanoid species, but his demeanor shifted drastically when presented with an image of a beholder, a creature from fantasy literature known for its floating form and multiple eyes. At the sight of this image, Glint immediately suffered a panic attack, screaming that the creature he encountered was like that thing but worse. After being sedated and allowed to recover, Glint was shown the image again, at which point he clarified that the entity resembled a beholder in concept, but was something darker. He described it as though the creature had been born out of nightmares, with its eye stalks twitching and moving erratically, and its body distorting in the flickering torchlight of the market. He mentioned its movements were unnatural, as if the air itself resisted its presence. Glint further elaborated that during his final moments in the trading hub, the entity had begun to whisper his name. At first, it was soft, barely audible over the ambient sounds of the market, but as Glint neared the boundary of SCP-Y-027's range, the whispers turned into guttural growls, layered with malice. The last thing he recalled before his forced return to the museum was the sensation of cold, bony fingers brushing against the back of his neck. Glint's encounter has raised serious concerns about unknown entities within SCP-Y-027's alternate world. No previous reports have indicated the presence of a creature matching his description, nor have any other operatives experienced such a direct threat. The encounter seems linked to SCP-Y-027's temporal instability, as Glint returned with no physical damage, but clear psychological trauma. His mutterings about eyes in the dark and things that don't belong suggest the presence of entities that may exist beyond the typical framework of the world, perhaps drawn to anomalies like the coin or its users. Given Glint's increasingly erratic behavior and vivid hallucinations, he has been placed under 24-hour observation. His nightmares have grown progressively worse, filled with vivid imagery of glowing eyes watching him from every corner. He has repeatedly claimed to see reflections of the creature in darkened windows, and one incident involved him violently attacking a mirror in his quarters, screaming that, "It's here." As of now, the exact nature of the entity and its connection to SCP-Y-027 remains unclear. Researchers are advised to approach future interactions with the other world with extreme caution, and efforts are being made to fortify mental resistance protocols for MTF Zeta-0 operatives who engage with SCP-Y-027. The phrase "twitching limbs" has become a trigger for Glint, as any mention of it causes him to lapse into a dissociative state, mumbling incoherently about eyes in places they shouldn't be. Further investigation is required to determine if this entity is unique to Glint's encounter, or if it represents a deeper, more insidious danger within the SCP-Y-027 anomaly. Incident Report 027-IR-4. Date: September 9, 2000. Involved personnel: MTF Zeta-0, Operative Switch. Summary: on September 9th, Operative Switch of MTF Zeta-0 embarked on a solo reconnaissance mission to the trading hub of SCP-Y-027's alternate world. The objective was to gather magical herbs and ingredients for testing. The assignment was considered routine, and Operative Switch was well versed in navigating the bustling market, having conducted several successful missions in the past. Upon collecting her intended goods and preparing to return to Provisional Reality-Y-1, Switch reported an eerie shift in the market's atmosphere. The usual chatter and noise abruptly ceased, and an unsettling silence fell over the trading hub. Merchants, civilians, and other creatures froze in place, their expressions blank as if under a trance. Before she could react, a sudden and violent attack was unleashed. Switch described a group of heavily armored beings, approximately 10 in number, emerging from the shadows of the market's outskirts. These attackers, human-like but grotesque in appearance, had their metallic armor fused directly into their flesh. Their weapons, which radiated a dark and sickening energy, cleaved through both living and inanimate objects with unnatural ease. As they descended on the civilians, they spared no one, cutting down merchants, children, and passers-by in a brutal and methodical massacre. The attackers moved with precision, ignoring any attempts at communication. Switch noted that they seemed to be more than mercenaries, as their attacks carried a chilling aura of supernatural malevolence. As she attempted to find an exit while maintaining contact with the coin, she was caught in the chaos, unable to engage them directly due to the sheer ferocity of the violence. Black, noxious gas filled the air, further hindering her vision and making it impossible to discern friend from foe. Switch's ability to trade places with similarly sized individuals was valuable in maintaining her own life, but was not geared toward battles or situations of this magnitude, making attempts to save the civilians in the market a fruitless endeavor. As the slaughter intensified, bodies piled up around her, with limbs and armor scattered across the blood-soaked ground. Moments before she lost consciousness, Switch dropped the coin, triggering her immediate return to the museum. Upon reappearance, she was found covered in blood, though physically unharmed. She exhibited signs of severe shock and trauma. While she was able to recount the basics of the attack, her memory of the finer details was fragmented. She repeatedly described the attackers as walking nightmares, their faces distorted with what seemed to be a combination of metal and rotting flesh. Security personnel debriefed her upon her return, but Switch could offer little in terms of useful intelligence about the attackers. The overwhelming violence she had witnessed, combined with the disorienting effect of the market's collapse, left her shaken and confused. One notable observation she made was the presence of an insignia on the chest plates of the attacker's armor, a blackened skull wreathed in flames with a pair of skeletal wings extending from either side. 2 days after Switch's return, Zeta Zero Operative Shade volunteered to investigate the aftermath of the massacre in the trading hub. Given the temporal inconsistencies observed in previous expeditions, Shade's mission was primarily focused on gathering information about the attack and determining if any traces of the event remained. Upon arriving in the trading hub, Shade immediately noticed that the marketplace had undergone a dramatic transformation. There was no sign of the massacre that Switch had experienced. Instead, the market had been rebuilt, with new structures and stalls replacing those that had been destroyed. The locals, though wary, seemed to carry on with their daily routines, but there was an undeniable shift in the air, an underlying tension that hadn't been present in previous expeditions. Shade spent several hours attempting to gather intelligence on the massacre, but the language barrier between the operatives and the locals made it difficult to extract detailed information. However, Shade managed to piece together bits of the event by engaging with several merchants and elders in the marketplace. Through a series of gestures and broken communication, Shade learned that the massacre was not a recent event, as it had been when Switch was there, but was now a part of the trading hub's history. The attack, referred to as the War Against the Dreadmount Lich, was said to have occurred 80 years prior in the alternate world's timeline. According to the locals, the massacre was the first strike in a long and brutal conflict that devastated the region. The armored attackers were identified as the Lich's elite warriors, known as the Dreadmorn Legion. These warriors, imbued with dark magic, had been under the command of a powerful necromancer, the Dreadmount Lich, who sought to enslave the hub's population as part of a larger campaign of terror. Monuments commemorating the conflict had been erected throughout the trading hub, with one particularly prominent statue, depicting a group of fallen warriors surrounded by weeping civilians. These monuments served as a grim reminder of the devastation wrought by the Dreadmorn Legion and their master. Shade noted that the insignia described by Switch, the skull wreathed in flames, was prominently featured on the statues, further corroborating Switch's account of the attackers. What made the investigation even more unsettling was the temporal gap between Switch's experience and Shade's findings. While only 2 days had passed in Provisional Reality-Y-1 between the two missions, the alternate world had seemingly aged 80 years during that time. The massacre Switch had witnessed firsthand was now an event of historical significance, remembered and memorialized by the locals as a pivotal moment in the trading hub's history. The time distortion between realities had effectively rendered Switch's experience a haunting echo of a past long gone in the alternate world. Incident Report 027, IR-5. Date, September 11, 2000. Involved personnel, MTF Zeta 0 Operative Talon. Summary: Operative Talon was assigned to explore the trading hub, document local flora, and retrieve samples for further research. Equipped with the coin, Talon was expected to return within a 24-hour window. When the operative failed to reappear, an additional 48 hours were given to account for potential time distortions. Despite this, Talon did not return, and a solo operative, Gale, was dispatched to investigate. Upon Gale's entry into the trading hub, Talon's bag and several gathered items were found abandoned in the market square. The locals reported a disturbing account of Talon's final moments. They described him fighting a beast that was not there, erratically swinging his arms and seemingly engaged in combat with an unseen foe. According to witnesses, Talon's body flickered, growing faint and translucent, as though being torn apart by something invisible, before disappearing entirely. Struggling through the language barrier, Gale managed to gather more details, as well as recover a portion of Talon's suit holding the Site-Y-1 standard video recording attachment. Talon had been shouting warnings to the market-goers, some of which were caught in broken-up footage from his suit's camera. The footage, largely distorted by static, included fragmented audio of Talon saying, "Don't. Look. Provoke. The eyes. Get inside. Go. Not safe." Talon appeared to be attempting to guide civilians to safety, interspersing warnings in both English and what little he knew of the local language, Arudesh. However, no one in the market saw any creature besides Talon himself. The camera footage showed nothing but heavy distortion, and Talon's erratic movements gave no clear indication of what he was fighting. Shortly after Talon's disappearance, the coin had reappeared in its original place in the Provisional Reality-Y-1 museum, but Talon did not. This marks the first instance where a person failed to return alongside the coin. Director's note: the disappearance of Operative Talon is an especially troubling event. Talon, with his anomalous ability to conjure impossibly sharp claws around his body, granting him near invulnerability to most known forms of attack, was considered one of the strongest and most skilled operatives in MTF Zeta 0, Bad Bunch. His claws could penetrate 50-inch steel, be launched at will as an immensely destructive projectile, and even withstand mortar fire. The fact that Talon was overwhelmed by an unseen entity and taken despite his immense combat ability and control over his anomaly implies we are dealing with a force beyond conventional or physical confrontation. It's likely that whatever entity Talon engaged with operates on a plane of reality we've barely scratched the surface of, perhaps requiring reality warping countermeasures to even begin comprehending it. Until we have more information, SCP-Y-027 remains under close scrutiny. The risk of any hostile force following Talon's disappearance back into Provisional Reality-Y-1 cannot be overstated. Incident Report 027, ALF-4. Date, September 12, 2000. Involved personnel, MTF Zeta 0, Operative Alfie, Researcher Daria Hines. Summary: during a routine mission to SCP-Y-027's alternate world, Operative Alfie, equipped with a bag containing assorted trinkets weighing 100 kilograms, entered the trading hub as per standard procedure. Alfie's abilities include the capacity to charm and control most anomalies and entities associated with the afterlife, such as undead, ghosts, and spirits. This talent, however, comes at the cost of progressive insomnia, which, if left untreated, could lead to fatal familial insomnia, FFI. To manage his condition, Alfie undergoes regular anomalous treatment at Site-Y-1 to ensure he remains operational and healthy, albeit perpetually fatigued. Upon arrival in the alternate world, Alfie reported an unsettling change in the environment. The bustling marketplace was enveloped in a dense, eerie mist, and an oppressive silence replaced the usual commotion. A group of spectral elves, distinguished by their glowing eyes and vacant expressions, surrounded Alfie. These entities exuded an otherworldly presence, their spectral forms shimmering faintly in the fog. The elves appeared to be drawn to the coin Alfie carried, their focus fixed on it with an intensity that grew palpable. Despite Alfie's notable ability to charm and control spirits, these elves remained impervious to his powers. They seemed to possess an invisible barrier or shield that neutralized his abilities, and their silent scrutiny was unyielding. Moments after his arrival, the mist thickened dramatically, and a deep, resonant voice began to echo through the hub in an unknown language. The voice reverberated with a menacing quality, inducing a profound sense of dread. Alfie described the voice as emanating from something ancient and ominous, which made him feel as though, quote, "something immense and beyond the veil was watching me," end quote. Overcome by a surge of anxiety and sensing an imminent threat, Alfie dropped the coin and was instantly transported back to the display hall. Upon his return, all of his equipment, including the coin, exhibited an inexplicable frost-like residue. This residue did not appear to affect the functionality of the equipment, but added to the unsettling nature of the incident. A psychological evaluation of Alfie was conducted immediately upon his return. The operative reported that the spectral elves' presence and the disembodied voice created an overwhelming sense of being hunted by an ancient, incomprehensible force. Alfie remained unharmed physically, but exhibited signs of increased psychological stress. Director's note: the encounter reported by Operative Alfie reveals a disturbing dimension to SCP-Y-027's alternate world. The spectral nature of the elves and their ability to neutralize Alfie's otherwise formidable abilities suggest that the trading hub may be influenced by entities or forces beyond our current understanding. The ancient, reverberating voice and the immediate appearance of the spectral elves indicate a level of sentience or awareness within the world that could pose significant risks. The frost-like residue found on Alfie's equipment could be related to the mist's properties, and its meaning is yet to be fully understood. Alfie's experience underscores the need for heightened caution and preparedness for future explorations. Given the spectral entity's resistance to supernatural influence and the profound psychological impact on even our most resilient operatives, further investigation into these phenomena is imperative. Incident Report 027-LZD-8. Date: September 15, 2000. Involved personnel: MTF Zeta 0 Operative Sunny Boy. Summary: following the infamous cheesecake trade incident, Sunny Boy was once again granted clearance to interact with SCP-Y-027. On this occasion, he brought a bag filled with various electronic devices to barter for more creatures or items from the other world. Upon his return, however, Sunny Boy came back with a sentient, six-legged creature resembling a large beetle that emitted a soft, rhythmic hum. The creature, later dubbed SCP-Y-027-C, appeared to have the ability to generate an electric charge, while Sunny Boy claimed the trade was, quote, "just a bit of fun," end quote. The creature demonstrated unusual behavior. Over the course of several days, SCP-Y-027-C began absorbing electricity from its containment cell and nearly caused a power failure at Site-Y-1. Further testing revealed that the beetle-like entity could disrupt electronic equipment within a 10-meter radius. Sunny Boy remains nonchalant about the incident, stating that he simply, quote, "wanted a shiny bug," end quote. Director Knightley issued a formal reprimand but permitted further containment efforts, acknowledging that SCP-Y-027 provided a unique research opportunity. Naturally, as the anomaly is currently maintained specifically at Site Y1 at the request of Sunny Boy, additional costs related to SCP-Y-027 will be deducted from the operative's pay. Incident Report 027 ELF-15. Date: September 20th, 2000. Involved personnel: MTF Zeta 0 Operative Whisper, Dr. Sasha Ford. Summary: MTF Zeta 0 Operative Whisper was selected for a critical mission to establish peaceful and productive communication with the Elven faction in the alternate world accessible via SCP-Y-027. As Whisper possesses the anomalous ability to speak across dimensions with a single target, the operation was conducted with Dr. Sasha Ford, a specialist in linguistics and expert in the language of the elves. This was necessary as only one person can physically cross into the alternate world at a time via the coin. Upon entering the trading hub, Whisper immediately contacted Dr. Ford through his ability, who began translating as he navigated the bustling marketplace. Whisper's task was to locate any Elven officials or figures of authority who could provide insights into the Elven culture and help develop relations between the SCP Foundation and the Elves, the longest-lived species in this alternate reality. Due to their longevity, their Elvish language had undergone the fewest changes, even through the temporal distortions that regularly affected the world. After several minutes, Whisper identified a particularly well-dressed elf standing near a group of merchants. The elf, clad in rich green and gold robes, adorned with intricate embroidery and carrying an ornate staff, exuded an air of authority. Whisper approached cautiously, speaking through Dr. Ford. The elf, intrigued by Whisper's respectful tone and clear attempt at communication, gestured for him to continue. Dr. Ford translated, explaining their interest in learning more about the Elven culture and establishing mutual cooperation. The elf's gaze fell upon the insignia on Whisper's uniform, the SCP Foundation emblem. His expression shifted slightly, and he appeared to recognize the symbol, though his reaction was unreadable at first. He spoke in slow, deliberate Elvish, which Dr. Ford interpreted.
"Your mark is one I have seen before, though only in visions. I have long lived, and yet have never encountered one who bears it in person."
Whisper, through Dr. Ford, expressed interest in the elf's knowledge of the emblem. The elf, after a moment's contemplation, invited Whisper to a more private location for further discussion. He summoned his retinue and directed Whisper to a nearby inn. The innkeeper was handsomely paid to clear the building of all other patrons, and the elf made sure the space would remain private for the duration of the conversation. Dr. Ford continued providing translation as Whisper followed the elf into the inn. Upon entering, the elf ensured that Whisper could sit comfortably and spoke a few words to his attendants, who left immediately. He introduced himself formally. Though the name did not have a direct translation into any known language, it was simple enough to imitate the sound, Larithrin. Whisper, through Dr. Ford, agreed, and the two sat opposite one another in the empty inn. Audio log 027 ELF-15-A. Date: September 20th, 2000. Personnel present: MTF Zeta 0 Operative Whisper, Dr. Sasha Ford, Translation and Linguistics Specialist via Communication Link. Larithrin, Elven representative of the unnamed Elven clan. The translation from Elvish has been enhanced post-mission by Foundation AI systems for clarity. Begin log.
"Sit, traveler. We have much to discuss, though I doubt our time will be enough to cover the depths of history between your kind and mine. Your mark, the emblem you carry, is not new to us. Your people have crossed into our realm for many generations. My clan has been watching, recording each appearance. It is strange, though. Your visits are not frequent, but when they do happen, they leave ripples in our world, ripples that stretch far beyond the days they occur.
We didn't realize our presence was noticed, let alone that it spanned so many of your lifetimes. How long has the SCP Foundation been known to your people?
For centuries, your actions in our realm have been marked in our records. The first of your kind stepped through the veil over 600 years ago, by our time. Each visit, each interaction, was subtle but noticeable to those of us who pay attention. The nature of your operations has often brought balance, whether intentional or not. Dangerous entities that once walked our lands were subdued, others were contained. Your people have always been skilled in the art of disruption and order.
6 centuries? That's astonishing. Whisper, they've been watching us for far longer than we realized. This could mean our incursions into this world happen in cycles.
6 centuries? Yet we didn't realize we were even being observed. How have we brought balance? And to what exactly?
Your foundation deals in the unknown, yes? Containing threats, anomalies, things that defy the laws of your world and ours. We have seen your kind neutralize forces of chaos before they could spread. The beasts of the rift, the watchers from the abyss. You quelled them, knowingly or unknowingly. To you, these may have been mere operations, but to us, they were monumental battles that altered the course of our history.
We weren't aware. These threats you speak of, are they still present?
Some have been reduced to whispers in our songs, stories we tell our children. Others, however, remain, lingering on the fringes of existence, waiting for the right moment to return. And therein lies the danger, traveler. Not all who observe your foundation are as grateful as we are. There are darker forces, older than the stars, whose gaze has now turned to you.
Ask him what he means by darker forces. Could they be related to what we've been sensing through temporal distortions when our people use the coin?
You mentioned darker forces. Who are they? And why are they watching us?
They are called the Pantheon of the Forgotten Ones. Gods that were supposed to have been silenced, cast down by the current gods who rule over balance and order. These beings, they are ancient, remnants of a time before stability, before harmony in our world. They do not belong to any known reality, but exist between realms, feeding on disorder, on the unraveling of structure. Your Foundation's presence, with its attempts to restore balance, has drawn their ire.
The Pantheon of the Forgotten Ones? What do they want with us?
What any god wants: power, control, and the freedom to shape the universe in their image. But unlike the gods you may know, the Forgotten Ones do not create. They consume. Their existence thrives on chaos, on the dissolution of reality itself. By interfering with the anomalies of our world, by fixing the cracks, you have unknowingly drawn their attention. And now, they watch with displeasure. They may not strike directly, but their influence grows.
How do we stop them? Or at least protect ourselves from their influence?
There is no simple answer. You must understand that these forces cannot be fought with weapons or magic. They reside in the places where logic breaks down, where reality becomes uncertain. However, my people, we have ways to mitigate their influence. In our ancient texts, we have found rituals and safeguards that can repel their presence, though never indefinitely. I offer you this, a treaty, an alliance between your Foundation and my clan. In exchange for knowledge, our rituals, our protection, we ask for your cooperation, should the Forgotten Ones ever break through to our world. Together, perhaps, we can hold them at bay.
Whisper, this could be the opportunity we've been waiting for. Their knowledge of these entities could be invaluable. Let me contact Director Knightley for approval. Director Knightley has authorized the signing of the treaty. He suggests we proceed with caution, but agrees that this partnership is vital.
The Foundation accepts your offer. We'll work together to stop the Forgotten Ones.
Then it is done. Our fates are bound, travelers from the other. May our combined strength keep the darkness at bay, for both our worlds. I will instruct my people to prepare the necessary rites for the coming storm. Farewell, traveler. Return to your world with the knowledge that we now stand as one.
The supposed help that we, the Foundation, have done for the alternate world of SCP-Y-027 remains a mystery, as we have a strict policy to trade and leave as little of a mark on the world's natural development as possible. This is one of the primary reasons that we don't allow guns to cross into the world of SCP-Y-027. Some MTF operatives who were close to Operative Talon have started rumors that he's still alive in the other world and is responsible for the great changes that the Foundation has supposedly caused. Other theories lean toward believing that we are causing destructive temporal shifts with each use, making us the cause of incidents instead. For the time being, however, we simply appreciate whatever has allowed us to form this alliance. The signing of this treaty marks a significant moment in Site-Y-1's operations. The partnership between the SCP Foundation and the Elven clan may provide crucial defenses against future threats posed by the pantheon of the Forgotten Ones. We must continue to monitor all temporal and dimensional distortions for signs of their growing influence. This is Director Knightley, signing off on another report at Site-Y-1. I hope you'll consider subscribing to stay up to date with our latest findings. I eagerly look forward to having your audience in future reports.